Learning Objective 4. Charge operating departments for services provided by service departments. Most large organizations have both operating departments and service departments. The central purposes of the organization are carried out in the operating departments. While service departments do not directly engage in operating activities, they provide services or assistance to the operating departments. Examples of service departments include internal auditing, human resources, and purchasing department. Service department costs are charged to operating departments for different reasons, including to encourage operating departments to wisely use service department resources, to provide operating departments with more complete cost data for making decisions, to help measure the profitability of operating departments, and to create incentive for service departments to operate efficiently. The service department charges can be viewed as a transfer price, which is charged for services provided by service departments to operating departments. Whenever possible, variable and fixed services department costs should be charged separately to provide more useful data for planning and control of departmental operations. Variable costs should be charged to consuming departments according to whatever activity causes the incurrence of a cost. For example, variable costs of a maintenance department, which are used by the number of machine hours worked in operating departments, should be charged to the operating departments on the basis of machine hours. Fixed costs should be allocated to consuming departments in predetermined lump sum amounts that are based on either the department's peak period or long-run average servicing needs. Importantly, fixed cost allocations are based on the amounts of capacity each consuming department requires and should not vary from period to period. Should actual budgeted costs be charged? Budgeted variable and fixed service department costs, rather than actual costs, should be allocated to operating departments. This can ensure that service departments hold solely responsible for explaining any differences between their actual and budgeted variable rate and any differences between their actual and budgeted fixed costs. Specifically, variable service department costs should be charged using a predetermined rate applied to the actual services consumed, and the lump sum amount of fixed costs should be based on budgeted fixed costs, not actual fixed costs. Let's take a look at example. Sipaco has a maintenance department and two operating departments, cutting and assembly. Variable maintenance costs are budgeted at 60 cents per machine hour. Fixed maintenance costs are budgeted at $200,000 per year. This is a data table. For each operating department, cutting and assembly, we have percent of peak period capacity required, hours planned, and hours used respectively. And we have total hours here, planned and used. Let's allocate maintenance costs to the two operating departments. To allocate variable costs charged to operating departments, we multiply budgeted variable rate by the actual level of activity for each operating department. For cutting department, 60 cents per machine hour multiplied by actual hours used, 80,000 hours, we can get $48,000. For assembly department, 60 cents multiplied by 40,000 actual hours used, we can get $24,000. Fixed costs charged to operating departments should be allocated by multiplying the percent of peak period capacity for each operating department by the budgeted total fixed costs. for cutting department, 60% multiplied by $200,000 budgeted total fixed costs, and we can get $120,000. And for assembly department, 40% multiplied by $200,000, and we can get $80,000. Add up a total here. Maintenance costs charged to cutting department should be $160,000. Maintenance costs charged to assembly department should be $104,000. At the end of the year, what if actual costs incurred by the service department are greater than total charges to operating departments? In the case here, actual variable costs incurred by maintenance department is $75,000. Actual fixed costs incurred, $210,000. Total variable charges to operating departments, $72,000. It's calculated by variable costs allocated to cutting department, $48,000, plus variable cost allocated to assembly department, $24,000, and we can get $72,000. Total fixed charges to operating departments, $200,000. Calculation is here. Fixed costs allocated to cutting department, $120,000, plus fixed costs allocated to assembly department, $80,000, and we can get $200,000. The difference between total actual costs incurred and total charges to operating departments is spending variance. It's a responsibility of a maintenance department, which means the service department, in the case here, maintenance department, should hold responsible for the actual costs not charged to operating departments. So spending variance for variable costs, $3,000. Spending variance for fixed costs, $10,000. Now let's take a look at some cautions in allocating service department costs. Rather than charge fixed costs to using departments in predetermined lump sum amounts, some companies allocate them using variable allocation base, which fluctuates from period to period. This is pitiful because it creates a situation where the fixed costs allocated to one department are heavily influenced by what happens in other departments. Sales dollars is an example of a variable allocation base, but it's a poor choice for allocation base because sales dollars fluctuate from period to period, and the costs being allocated are often largely fixed. This creates a situation where the sales in one department will influence the service department costs allocated to another department. Let's take a look at example, Autos R Us. Autos R Us has one service department and 3 sales departments: new cars, used cars, and car parts. The service department costs total $80,000 for both years in the example. Contrary to good practice, Autos R Us allocates the service department costs based on sales. For each department, we have sales by department dollar amount, and we can calculate the percentage of the total sales. For example, for new cars department, we use 1.5 million sales dollar amount divided by total sales 3 million, and we can get 50%. Used cars department 30%, and car parts 20%. To allocate the service department costs to each sales department, we use percentage of the total sales of each sales department multiplied by total service department costs, $80,000. So for new cars department, we use 50% multiplied by $80,000, and we can get $40,000. And for used cars and car parts, we can get $24,000 and $16,000 respectively. In the next year, the managers of the new cars department increases sales by $500,000. Sales in the other departments are unchanged. Now, let's calculate the $80,000 service department cost for the second year. Percentage of the total sales for each department changed because new cars department increased its sales. For new cars department, 2 million sales divided by total sales, 3.5 million, and we can get 57%. For the other two departments, sales dollar amount did not change, but the percentage of total sales dropped. Now let's calculate service department costs allocated to each sales department. For new cars department, 57% multiplied by $80,000 total service department costs, and we can get $45,714. The allocation of service department costs to the new cars department increased by $5,714. But for the other two departments, service department costs decreased. Then the manager of the new cars department would likely to complain because by growing sales in his department, he's being forced to carry a larger share of the service department costs. The manager is actually being punished for his outstanding performance, while the other two departments showed no sales growth, and the managers are being relieved their portion of the service department costs. This is not fair. Okay, this is end of chapter 11.